I've been playing video games since I was really young. I got into them through couch co-op games with my older brother. I've got many fond memories of us playing Sonic the Hedgehog 2, or smashing out some horse or graffiti in Tony Hawk's. But one of my favourite memories is sitting behind him whilst he played Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid is one of the first games that I can remember that combined both cinema and video games, so it made for a very enjoyable experience even when you're sitting on the sidelines. The game's creator, Hideo Kojima, is a passionate film fan, and I felt this bled through in his art. He's able to design such innovative, groundbreaking games, weaving in complex stories structured as movies, all whilst making them unapologetically games. It turned out to be a very seminal game for me. It truly shaped me and my interests, and helped me make some lifelong friends. But flash forward 20 years, whilst I'm still as into games as I used to be, I now only have the same 3 multiplayer games on rotation. Everything I play is a lot the same. I'm not trying anything new, I'm not really passionate, and nothing's really engaging me. And whilst it sounds like I'm in the midst of my quarter-life crisis, I thought I should act upon it. So, I then began a search for something new, for a video game that's thought-provoking, divisive and intriguing, and something to rekindle my love for games. And that's when I stumbled onto an article about a game with a whopping 2-hour end credits scene. That game was Death Stranding. I'd missed the boat initially on this game, having made the jump to PC gaming around the time it was launched on PS4, but I was suckered in by the intrigue and the bizarreness of the marketing campaign. I had no idea what the game was about, but it had Hideo Kojima's name plastered on it, and that was enough for me. MGS5 left quite a sour taste in my mouth. Whilst it was a technically impressive game, it was missing many of the elements of the Metal Gear series that I loved, like the codec, grand set pieces and cutscenes. And I'd like to believe this is due to the fallout between Kojima and Konami. Whilst we'll never know the true story of Kojima's split from Konami, I was happy to follow him in his future ventures as he created some of my fondest stories of all time. I was interested to know what would happen when Kojima was given free rein to pursue his vision, and whether he'll bring back the fun dialogue, cinematic set pieces and epic cutscenes I love so much about his games. Now, having trekked through a 67-hour playthrough, I now know. So without further ado, I'm Lee, and this is my strongly opinionated review of Death Stranding. This is a spoiler-free review. I went into the game knowing nothing about it. Now coming out of it, I think it's best that you do too. Death Stranding is a 2019 action game developed by Kojima Productions. It's the first game from director Hideo Kojima after his split from Konami in 2015. The game is set in a dystopian future where a cataclysmic event known as the Death Stranding has put the human race on the brink of extinction. The event brought with it abhorrent creatures known as beach things, or BTs, from the beach, an otherworldly place which is believed to be the connection to the afterlife. You play as Sam Porter Bridges, voiced and modelled off actor Norman Reedus, a courier who is tasked at reconnecting the UCA, the United Cities of America, which had been decimated by the Death Stranding. It is now up to Sam to travel across the ravaged wasteland and save humanity from impending annihilation. If that heavily trimmed down synopsis was confusing, you'll understand why there is also a near 2-hour cutscene at the start of the game. I've said that this will be a spoiler-free review, and that's partly because explaining the story can be quite difficult. Those who are familiar with Kojima's work and writing style will not be shocked by the initial exposition dump the game kicks off with, and for me it's very welcomed. It's a very difficult story to comprehend, with outlandish concepts and existential issues, but after the 2 hours you'll have a slight understanding of the Death Stranding and any other Kojima-isms that are thrown at you. Such as BTs, the grim dead creatures that haunt you; BBs, the unborn fetuses used to facilitate a connection to the world of the dead; void out, the explosions caused by the dead; and timefall, a weather phenomena which accelerates the aging of anything it touches. And that's not to mention the grand cast of obscenely outlandish characters, like Deadman, a doctor who's 80% cadaver; Heartman, an AED-reliant man whose heart stops every 21 minutes; Mama, a young woman tethered to her deceased infant daughter; and Die Hard Man. Even if you do not immediately click with the world, story or characters, you'll at least be able to understand the game's powerful underlying themes of hope, connection and isolation. After the grand cinematic opening, you will eventually venture out and start your journey to reconnect to the United Cities of America. And immediately, when playing this game, You cannot argue it is absolutely gorgeous. I was totally captivated by the realistic scenery. You can see the immense effort that had gone into creating this world. Each craggy hill and mountain range has been fully realised, with a true understanding of how the cutting streams and rivers eroded them over time with the accelerated timefall in the area. You can see that the artist truly understood their vision. You can even follow these rivers from source to sea, and you'll often find yourself doing so as you're building your strands. As a courier, you are constantly trying to find quicker and easier ways to deliver your packages. And no matter which route you take, you'll feel like each route has been specifically crafted, frame by frame, to create the most outstanding vistas. And on your journey, you'll visit many different biomes, which all feel seamlessly stitched together into a real, believable world. This is evidence of the fabulous world building Death Stranding presents to you. Visually, it feels lived in, or in this case, not lived in. You understand the way the world is, as a stark comparison to modern life. Humans are resorted to living in underground cities, which are distributed sporadically across America. Anything that resembles modern architecture is drab, washed out and in ruins. And with that, new buildings are built for purpose. They're not pretty, and they all just serve a function. Like the incineration facilities that you find along your way, industrial-sized crematoriums are commonplace, which really tells you how dire the situation has become. The breathtaking graphics aren't just isolated to the environment, but also to the character models. Many characters have famous actors providing their digital likenesses as well as their voices to really bring their characters to life. This adds to the cinematic feel of the game. The costumes and designs are also brilliant. Characters like Fragile, played by Lei Sado, have simplistic designs yet still offer a fantastic silhouette. Her clothes also add to her character in a similar fashion to Quiet in Metal Gear Solid 5, but in a much more conservative manner. Kojima has once again provided more fodder for the cosplaying community. Even the protagonist Sam, who is simply a courier, has a unique style to him, but what pushes through strongest in his character design is what we see when his clothes are off. Sam suffers from aphenphosmophobia, a fear of being touched. He is pessimistic and upholds a disdain for the world of the living. This is visualised by Sam's body. He is covered in handprints embedded by the world of the dead. I think this shows that Sam has a stronger connection to the other side than he does with the living, as he is more willing to feel the embrace of death than life. Between detailed characters and gorgeous environments, the design team really wants you to see their work. The minimalistic HUD is perfect at helping you reach your destination, but also it lets the landscape breathe and speak for itself. There is an obvious comparison to draw between Death Stranding and the HUD in Metal Gear Solid. The rapid access item select echoes the series' 5th installment. Kojima mastered the item select in 1997 with MGS1, and I feel that every other developer is still trying to play catch up. However, the same can't be said for the menu system. With the lack of a better word, the menus can be quite tedious. In the menus, you will find your cargo, ongoing orders, the map, conversations, lore, and collectibles. You receive a minor introduction into how the menus work, with characters even breaking the fourth wall whilst they guide you through its intricacies. However, after this you're left to your own devices, and as far as I'm aware there are no additional tutorials in the menus, so you'll often find yourself frantically tapping buttons to hopefully get to where you want to. The game very early on throws you into the deep end, expecting you to learn most of the game's mechanics very quickly, and you'll suffer because of it. At the start, you'll spend most of your time in the menus micromanaging your cargo, and this can be incredibly long. I initially was stumbling around the map, crashing into rocks or just floating down rivers, losing all of my cargo, and my sanity. And this is because I was trash at managing where to place my cargo. No matter what I did, I couldn't get my balance right, and resulted in some unnecessary frustrations. What isn't explained is that managing your cargo isn't as difficult as it makes you believe. It actually just provides you with an option to just auto-arrange everything, which is a tip I wish I knew a lot sooner. One of my favourite aspects of Death Stranding is the story and its world, but the cutscenes are so few and far between that sadly, to follow the story, I found you need to read through endless conversations that you unlock as you progress through the game. This is one of my least favourite elements in modern gaming, only really successfully realised in the Soulsborne series. It does work as a fantastic encyclopedia of many of the game's concepts, but this could have been much better implemented in the form of audio logs. You spend much of your time commuting, and they could have streamlined the story, perhaps by using the returning codec feature more regularly. Once you do get an understanding of the maps and menus, they are very intuitive, providing very helpful information on terrain, weather and routes. Just with all things in this game, it just takes time and perseverance. And over time, you'll see how far you've come. The map does a beautiful job at visualising the strands that connect us all. As you complete deliveries, the map creates a perfect trail of every journey you've ever taken. This is really cool in a story sense, but also very useful when plotting out your next delivery, as you can tell which routes are successful and which aren't. It's been said to death about this game, it's a walking simulator with fetch quests. And given how much time you'll be walking in this game, the environment and world is integral to the gameplay. To connect the UCA, you pick up jobs to build strands that span the continent. You'll be given your cargo, a quick brief of the job, and a destination. The catch is that you're never told a route, and here lies the main bulk of the game. This simple, monotonous gameplay has received quite a lot of negative feedback, but for me, it's one of my favourite aspects of the game. I found it really enjoyable plotting out my routes before a long journey, seeing how many little jobs I can make along the way. Even bringing with me tools to make sure the next time I do the same route, I make it much easier. I found this gameplay loop very rewarding, as building a rapport with your clients opens up the map further, and bringing more variety to the work that you're doing. Sam Porterbridges is a one-man, all-terrain vehicle. He's geared up with ladders, ropes, portable bridges, and his most important asset, his legs. But you're not actually as alone as you'd think. As you reconnect America, you'll find signs of other porters. Any bridge you build or ladder you place is actually connected to other players in the game, helping them on their journey. It's a fantastic way for the game to get across its strong message of bonds, as well as actually helping you on your journey. You can also leave messages for other porters in the form of signs, or warn other players of upcoming threats, or even just encourage them to go that little bit further. The fact that you never see another player would often make you feel isolated, but it's these great gestures from other players that make you feel closer to them, and I really love this game mechanic. It was really nice to see if I spent any time away from the game, other players had helped me rebuild roads or put up ladders so I could make my transition back into the game much smoother. Your journey is not without its perils. On your map you can take note of the weather, as one of the strangest outcomes of the Death Stranding is the timefall phenomena. As a courier, this is your worst nightmare. The timefall damages any cargo you have on you, and damaged cargo means a lower courier score and an upset client. This may not sound that threatening, but timefall also brings with it the ghostly BTs, and one of the most frustrating things about this game: stealth. You'd think, having made Metal Gear Solid one of the most impressive stealth games of all time, that it would carry over into this, but no. Unfortunately, the stealth segments in this game are quite disappointing. Painstakingly walking past BTs with your breath held, all whilst getting rained on and damaging your cargo is just anxiety inducing. There isn't really any skill involved either. You just need to walk slowly past everyone and hope to see clear skies soon. As these sequences weren't that difficult, I was very close to missing out on something interesting that happens if you are discovered. If you are unlucky enough to get grabbed by one of the BTs, the world around you changes. Buildings and structures from throughout time begin to rise up through the black ooze, transforming the landscape all around you almost seamlessly, and you're now hunted by Lovecraftian monsters that echo the designs from Dark Souls or Bloodborne. These create some very memorable moments, but like Sam, I did need to sit down and take a breather after some of these encounters. The dead aren't your only threats here either. You will also combat mules, highwaymen who are fixated on stealing all your deliverable goods. Sections which involve mules were approachable in more ways than the BT, as you could take the stealth approach or all guns blazing action approach. The gunplay and hand-to-hand action is pretty good. Every sound and animation is fantastic, and time slows down to build tension anytime you finish off an enemy, but it does feel half-baked, almost as if it's reusing assets from another action-adventure game. I was often my own downfall in these tense situations, as I was stressing more about losing all my cargo rather than the threat that's right in front of me. Many times when I found myself stressing at these situations, I'd slow the pace down and just do some deliveries, as besides doing the main story quests, there are hundreds of repeatable deliveries you can take on and get to grips with the smaller day-to-day stories of the world. On your travels, you'll meet a plethora of characters, some small, some surprises, and some who are incredibly fleshed out and diverse. What makes Metal Gear Solid stand out for me is its fantastic array of unforgettable characters that experience their own arcs, and we also see this here in Death Stranding. I love the characters in this game. Each character we meet is interwoven into the game's deep and elaborate story, but each has their own personal story to tell. The expansive cast of actors, voice actors and directors who provide their voice and likenesses to the characters, such as Norman Reedus, Mads Mikkelsen, Guillermo del Toro and Troy Baker, of course, are well utilised, and provides strong, convincing, and entertaining performances. The game is broken down by chapters, each with a title character, whom then becomes the focal point of your mission. These moments can be highly rewarding, as many of the characters you have already spent upwards of 20 hours with, without really understanding who they are, or what their true motives are. And whilst we do find out quite a lot about them, the story then often raises further questions. I'm not going to lie, the game is a slog. With an almost 70-hour runtime, there are many points you're just questioning whether it is worth your time. I played this game off the back of Last of Us 2, which is a marathon of the game in itself, and it already damaged my psyche. There are repetitive and aggravating BT stealth segments compiled with escaping rivals, and sheltering from the rain had been quite a struggle, but I couldn't help but feel it was a lovely metaphor, one showing the length Sam, his team and humanity are willing to go for each other. The great distances some of your deliveries expand are essential to the story. You are crossing the whole of America, and the emptiness of the world shows how isolated people are, with only Sam being the only strand that connects them. Realistically though, it is a game, and it needs to be entertaining. So when you get to a stage where you're fed up, just stick the kettle on, have a brew, and keep on keeping on, as the good in this game is good.
Keep on keeping on.
The game seems to understand when you'll find yourself beaten down with no resources or end in sight. When it does, the camera pulls out to this gorgeous wide shot as it fills you with a rush of endorphins as the soundtrack starts playing and its soundscape of emotion pulls at your heartstrings. The hauntingly atmospheric soundtrack includes track by Low Rule is engrossing. It adds an extra layer to the world that is so in keeping with its tone, chilling despair with glimmers of hope. This year I've started cycling to the gym in the mornings, and having this soundtrack on gets me going the extra mile, all while starting my day with some positivity. And with that said, I already know my Spotify Wrapped for this year is going to have Death Stranding by Churches headlining it. This game was my introduction to the Scottish indie pop group, and what an intro. The song really captures the hope and mystery of life, and it's a perfect addition to this game. The moment it kicks in, nearing the game's climax, is equal parts heartwarming and gut-wrenching, and it really adds to one of my favourite moments in the game. This will remain spoiler-free, but just the final act of the game is worth the price of admission. I'd picked Death Stranding up on sale on Epic Games for around £15. It was a price tag that was enough to push me over the edge, and when thinking whether I got my money's worth with it, 100%. And I'd happily have paid retail price, but thankfully you won't have to, as I've seen the game pop up on many sales on both PC and PS4. I played this game on PC, and I kinda wished I'd play it on my PS4, just so I could have played it on my much larger TV. As I'd mentioned earlier, I got into video games through watching my brother play, but I'm afraid I wouldn't recommend this to be one to watch your siblings play. Death Stranding sat very unevenly for a lot of its runtime. It's a game that requires a lot of your patience, commitment and tedium, so I can't imagine it being too enjoyable watching your sibling get excited after they spent 2 hours collecting resources to build a road to shave 10 minutes off their next delivery. But I would definitely recommend this as a game for you to play, albeit with a huge caveat, reminding you to know what you're in for. The game requires a lot of patience, commitment and tedium, and you'll sometimes spend 2 hours collecting resources to shave 10 minutes off your next delivery. However, Death Stranding eventually reaches a point where everything just clicks. There's an enlightening moment where you just see everything you've accomplished and what every moment has meant. The world is so perfectly imagined, and it leaves it all at your doorstep to get lost in. There are intriguing and innovative ideas, such as multiplayer elements, which really encapsulate the game's message. And whilst the gameplay can seem repetitive, I find it does just enough to break it up with new and interesting segments. It isn't as cinematic as I was expecting. There are only a few memorable set pieces, and even though the game is bookended by feature-length cutscenes, the bulk of the game is missing that same depth. There is an uneven balance in the runtime, with a big lull in the middle, but thankfully it really comes into itself in the final act. The 2-hour-long end credit scene which sold the game for me is what ultimately solidified my love and admiration for it. The game does a brilliant job at interweaving its story with its gameplay in a way that is incredibly natural, and this is complemented by the star-studded cast who really bring their characters to life. And the episodic aspect of the game, which focuses on individual characters, is really reminiscent of J.J. Abrams' TV show Lost, which gives it added brownie points for me. I went into this game looking for something new to rekindle my love for games, and Death Stranding succeeded. It was a really unique gaming experience, and one that I'm really glad I pushed through with. All the negatives I felt whilst playing it, such as the combat, stealth and length, are now dwarfed by the positives, like the aesthetics, soundtrack, characters and the beautiful story and they're all things which prove that games can be considered art. Video games are what connected me to my brother and built bridges between me and my friends. Since the world started opening up, what's done the best for my mental health hasn't been the gym as I'd expected it to be, but it's been seeing my friends again. Being nerds, we've all stayed pretty well connected over lockdown through Discord, but nothing's beaten seeing them in person and sinking a few cold ones whilst we roll some dice. I look forward to many great times to come. Over the past year or so, there have been a lot of awful things happening around the world, but also a tremendous amount of good. People have found ways to come together even when we can't. It's showing that we're all stronger as one. We're able to now build strands across the world and fight for causes we believe in. Death Stranding is a testament to humanity, perseverance and hope, and that when everything seems stacked against you, you have others there to help you through. Samwise Gamgee said it best: there's some good in this world, and it's worth fighting for. Hey, thanks for checking the video out and sticking through to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. This has taken me a long time to do. I've enjoyed making it, but I've not enjoyed my procrastination. It's my first time doing a review for a video game, so I hope it was good. I found it a lot more challenging than doing one for a film. So if you want to see something that I think was a bit more impressive, please check out my previous video where I did a review for the Peanut Butter Falcon, which is a lovely film that's currently on Netflix. So yeah, please check that out. I'm looking to try and do some smaller, shorter videos, as I think that might suit better my abilities. But yeah, again, thanks for sticking through to the end. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think down below. Comment, subscribe, all that. Like the video. Ding ding. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day. Cheers.